Welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the zipfile module in Python. And of course the zipfile module is to create zipped files. And this is a common format for archiving and compression. And with this module you can create, read, write and append zip files. And as you can see at the bottom there are some limitations, but generally it's pretty good and it's very useful to compress stuff using the module, even though it's not as quick as it could be. So if we're going to use the zipfile module, the first thing we're going to do is from zipfile import, and the things we're going to be using are zipfile and path. And there are other things, but we're just going to use these. So the first thing we want to do is we want to just see what files there are, and we're actually going to use glob from that. So from glob we're going to import glob, and we're going to say that the files are glob everything that ends with .txt, and we want to set recursive equal to true so that it looks in the subfolder, and we can just print the files. And you can see there's this test.txt which we can open, and this folder /test.txt which we can also open. And you can see that this one says there's a test file and this one says this is a text file. So a minor difference, but it's good to see that they're there. So if we want to zip them, we need to create an archive. So we'll say with our zip file, and we're going to call it archive.zip, and we're going to write to it. So we call this a zip because this is our zip folder, and we'll just loop through the files, and we say zip.write file. And interestingly, we're not writing the actual file, we're just writing the file name to the zip because these are all files. And you can see it's created this archive.zip, which we can't use, but we can try opening anyway. And you can see, there's some data. We can also see some of the text that we've put in. And obviously it hasn't really compressed it very much because we've got two text files. But if we do it again, and when we write it, we'll overwrite it, we can say zip.printdir. And you can see if we do this, it has this very nice way of displaying the files when they were last modified and how big they are. And of course we can go ahead and modify them just by putting a full stop at the end and doing the same thing again, and you can see now they've both just been modified. However, we might not always want to write files, we want to read them. So if we open archive.zip and this time read, we can then just extract everything. So we say zip.extract all to archive. And you can see if we open this archive, we've got this test.txt and test.txt, which contain the same data that we just put in, which is good to see. We could also just extract individual files, so we could say zip.extract and say test.txt, so on the top one, and extract that to an output folder. And run that, and you see we've got this output folder with the test.txt. So it is working. But as well as writing and reading, there is one other thing we can do. So we'll say with zip file archive.zip, and this time we're going to make it append a zip. We can say zip.write update.txt. So we'll just create a file called update.txt, and we'll just say this is an update, and we can run that, and it's been added. You can't see it yet. However, if we say this is a new update, so we've updated it again, we run it, you'll see that we get this duplicate name update.txt because we've added it twice. And in fact, if we instead of adding, we say zip.printdir, you'll see we've got update.txt saved twice, modified at different times and different sizes. However, if we decide to extract it, you'll see that it only keeps the newest version, and that's because when it's extracting, it extracts the most recent one last, and so it will overwrite the thing that it's just edited. But generally that's not bad practice, and in fact if you want to delete stuff from your archive, you actually have to create a new archive and copy everything across, which is quite difficult. But that's just one of the limitations of the module. However, we can directly read this file, so we say if path zip.filename, because we don't need to just type the file name out again, and the folder we want to look at is update.txt, and we want to check if it, then we can say with opening the file update.txt, and we want it to be R. I'll call this file. We can print the file .read. We can actually see here it says this is a new update, and you'll notice the B at the start tells us that it's binary encoding. And interestingly, we can actually write to it again, so we say with zip.open update.txt w as file, we can say file.write another update. However, when we run this, you see we get an error, and you can see this is because here we're opening it with the W flag. So if I change this to an A so that we can now edit it and try writing, you see we get another error saying that it needs to be a bytes-like object, not a string. So we just put a B in there to turn this into a string of bytes, and we can write. And we get this user warning again. We don't need to worry too much, because when we extract it, we can see that this update.txt has the new update in. The final thing is that there's actually a command line interface for this. So what we can do is we can say python-m zipfile -h to show the help message, and you can see we can do all these different things. So the first thing we'll do is we'll create. So we'll say create one called code.zip, and we'll put in main.py. And then we can change this so that we list from code.zip, and you see there's one file called main.py. We can even then extract it and we're going to extract it to output, and you can see it's copied our main.py into the output. And you can see that this is very useful because it means rather than having to drag and drop stuff like you do in Windows, you can use the command line interface to move stuff around when you're creating zip files, and this is really useful. And in fact, if you add the zip file folder to path, then rather than typing in the Python, you can type in zip file. And that's something I've done so that I can use the zip file submodule to do anything without having to type in python-m at the start. In the same way, if we do python-m pip, and of course we just put --version, that's the same as doing pip-version, which is a very useful thing to be able to do. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video, you've learned how to use zipfile, and you'll be able to create zips easily in the future. And I'll see you again, same time, next week. Till then.